Us this morning or evening, depending where you are. We will get started in about 30 seconds. All right, great. I see people joining, so we appreciate everyone being here on time. So we are going to hold up our end of the bargain and get started on time as well so that we can finish at the top of the hour. Thank you for joining us wherever you're dialing in from. My name is Joe. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at WinWire, and I'm going to be moderating today's discussion. I'll introduce our two presenters in a moment. Just to make sure you're in the right place, this is a CTO Tech Talk Live. We will be talking about Microsoft Copilot adoption across industries and whether or not it has lived up to the hype. Again, my name is Joe. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at WinWire, and I will be moderating today's discussion. With me are two presenters. Vineet Arora is the co-founder and CTO of WinWire. He has over 27 years of experience, including at Microsoft as a senior architect. And as co-founder and CTO of WinWire, he advises our clients on how to leverage Azure OpenAI services to drive innovation and growth across industries. So welcome, Vineet.
Everyone.
And with us, we also have Dantri Moore. She is an AI global black belt. She's a principal technical specialist at Microsoft. She is a deep learning enthusiast and has a lot of professional experience in both data science and machine learning. And currently at Microsoft, she is responsible for driving high priority customer initiatives on Azure AI platform and helping her customers accelerate their AI transformation journey. So lots to get to. So why don't we get some housekeeping out of the way quickly. Feel free to post any questions, and this is important. We have already accumulated 5 or 6 questions from people who have registered for the event, which we will get to, and that's great. But we will have time. Any questions that come up as Vineet and Dantri go through the material, put them in the chat, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. We will share the recording of this session within the next day or two, so by Monday latest. And if you have any questions following the discussion, you can write to us at marketing@WinWire, and we will take the appropriate next steps. All right, so without further ado, Vineet, I think I'm going to hand it over to you to go through the disclaimer and get us started.
Thank you very much, Joe. Again, excited to partner up with you, Joe, for another of the CTO Tech Talk Live. Welcome, everyone, wherever you're joining from. And certainly, Dhanshri, thank you again for the partnership and taking your time. Some of you may have attended. We have done joint webinars in the past too. Just a couple of slides just to set the stage. What we are going to be sharing out here today is going to be some content. So some slides that will be setting the context, but we do want to sort of talk about our experience, our interactions with all the CXOs that we have been talking to for the last few months, specifically around the topic of generative AI, but Copilot specifically, as a part of the generative AI. And same, Dhanshri has been doing the same in her role, all of across the world. And we would like to just sort of share and answer some of your questions. So as Joe said, please ask your questions. We already have some questions that we'll answer. The point I think we want to just make sure is that, of course, the technology is evolving, right? We'll be able to answer the question. We'll share our experiences based upon what we have seen right now, where Gen AI is, where Copilot as a technology is, right? As we were planning this about a month and a half back, I knew that it will continue to change. And, as Dhanshri knows, as some of you may know, in fact, the wave 2 of Copilot just got released this Monday, and Microsoft, did a big announcement around that. Now, it's 4 days since then. We have not incorporated any of those right now, but you will see some of those are the experiences and the changes that customers are going to be starting to use. We want to talk about what have we seen till now, what has been the various experiences, and the agenda is pretty simple, right? As you see, we want to talk about what the whole Copilot era is, right? And I'm sure if it's a repeat for some of you, I think it's just a refresher. And even if you have some questions around that, I believe chatbots have been there for quite a long time, but I think the Copilot, the way Microsoft has sort of phrased it and implemented it, and the way it is growing, I think it's not chatbot. And I do this big debate with some of the folks on saying, don't think of it as a chatbot. So what is of Copilot? Dhanshri, from our Microsoft perspective, will talk about it. We do want to talk about the promises that you may have heard, that we have seen, right? What have we seen, the various use cases? And then, of course, we want to talk about success stories, hear from you. If there are any questions, answer those. And of course, we can always have follow-up conversations. There are a lot of things to get to. We will keep it a little bit more free-flowing rather than a webinar where we are going to be sort of doing a monologue. So with that, Dhanshri, I'll let you, and thank you again for taking out the time. I'll let you talk about the whole era of Copilot from Microsoft perspective.
Awesome. Thank you, Vinay. Thank you, Joe, for the opportunity. It is super exciting to be in the era of this Copilot. It's been a year and it's been really exciting journey, and I'm loved to share all that with you. So we introduced this concept of Copilot as the digital assistant for your team, for your department, and even the entire organization that is aiming to boost the productivity and drive the business forward. So how are we doing this? So imagine this AI as your real-time collaborator that is helping you generate the new content for your marketing campaign, spark the new creativity within your teams, even automate some of the repetitive cognitive tasks. And it is helping you in your everyday day-to-day activity. Let it be from writing the email to you miss a meeting and then you want to know what happened in that meeting, all the way to automating your business processes and like very proprietary tasks as well. All these are grounded in your own data. So this is the now new era of Copilot, where this Copilot are becoming the new UI for the AI. So I would like to just go through some of the investment that we have done in this Copilot stack. So in last year, Microsoft have launched multiple different Copilots, starting from the GitHub Copilot, which is your AI-paired code assistant, which is helping you write the code much more faster. All the way to, we do have the Azure Copilot, which is helping you deploy all these different Azure services on cloud quicker. We have Microsoft 365 Copilot in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Power BI, entire Power Platform, Bing Chat Enterprise. You all might have been using all these different Copilot. So here, the way to think about this is like these are the AI assistant powered by these large language models, even sometimes small language models nowadays. Basically, that generative AI technology that is helping you with multiple different tasks, and you can also customize some of these Copilot for your own task and your own data set, as I mentioned before. So I would like to go in a little bit deeper into where all we are seeing the customer adoption. So starting from the marketing team, where it is helping marketing team to come up with some of the new ideas. They want to launch the marketing campaign on social media. How all these different Copilot is helping, I would love to go those, like it is helping you to create that new content much more quicker with just natural language. You can interact with these Copilot and get the desired outcome. For those knowledge workers who want to dive deeper into all the knowledge base that they have, and this can be multi, like gigabyte, terabyte size of the data set that they have, and they want to get the value out of it, derive the knowledge out of it. So how they can find that information much more quicker. Again, Copilot can help you go through all these different data set, reason over it, understand that data, and you can ask the question in more of natural language, and it will give you the response back in natural language instead of, oh, here is the link and go read it by yourself. So that is the reasoning capability that is it is adding on top of that. One of my personal favorite use case that I have seen, which is super easy to implement, is in the customer service area. Think about that call center scenario where your call center representative, they need to give the information while they are on the call, and like the faster they can solve the use cases, the better user customer experience is going to be. So these are another set of use cases, like more of a pattern that I have seen across multiple different industry, where it is generating a lot of value with this Copilot. And with that, Vineet, would you like to add some of the experiences working with your customer?
Absolutely. Lakshi, thank you for that overview. And I'm sure as some of the folks who have been living and seeing the growth of the whole Copilot, it was announced way back, last year. It's been almost, I would say, 16 to 18 months. And technology, of course, has been evolving, including, as I said, last Monday, this is gone Monday, the wave 2 has been launched. But I think when we have spoken to customers, when we have looked at them, right, the first impression of the Microsoft 360 or the Copilot, Microsoft sort of release of Copilot was the one that they embedded into Microsoft Word and other areas. So I'm sure if you have access to it, you have seen something like this embedded into Word, and you could create content. And as Dhanshi was talking about, this is something that is available as a licensed solution, right? This is every user has it as an add-on to your Microsoft 360, right? Those are the kind of things you could create content right here. You could generate and work on those. But you could also have a little bit of a different experience, maybe in the browser itself, right? So if you see these copilots, that have both work and web as the data sources, have also been implemented, right? Now, as we have seen this, if I look at the customers' adoption, right? At the underlying, there is of course this whole idea of, I'll actually close this. Nope, I don't want to. Sorry about that. This whole idea of course, the Microsoft Graph that is there, Azure as the core platform, right? Entra, which is the security aspect of making sure that people are accessing it in the right manner. The maturity and the adoption lifecycle that we have seen is that the buy option, which is available, right? And again, I've not listed on all the probably 2 dozen copilots that are out there, Sales Copilot and all of those copilots. Two of the most prominent ones, I think, which many customers do use and see, and they are licensed products, is M365 Copilot and GitHub Copilot, addressing different user scenarios, different use cases, and of course, deriving the value out of that. Now, when we were planning for this sort of talk, right, the idea was we can certainly talk about that. I'm sure you have questions around how are you driving value out of that. There have been, I think, success stories of and IDC research that has proven that there is time saving, there is productivity gains that have been achieved by using these technologies. There have been skeptics also, let me be very honest, on people wanting to look at the ROI, right? If somebody has 10,000 employees and they buy it for everyone, right? The time that is saved, right? Is it worth the cost of the licensing? I think that debate is still going on, but certainly there have been enough studies and research being done and published that there are gains that are achieved out of just buying these licenses and achieving the productivity. I think it's slightly going to be a long-term game where both the technology is going to evolve, and I think it is also a chain management at the user's end, right? Be it a developer or be it your information worker, be it a salesperson, be it executives, right? Who wants everything in an Excel probably, right? And can the chat-based interface, or more appropriately called the conversational AI, become the norm? I strongly believe that. I think this is going back to almost 15 years ago when mobility and mobile apps came into the picture. The ability to access different kinds of information, the ability to transact and work with different kinds of entities, be it your bank or your supermarket or anything using your mobile devices, right, was a new concept, right? And it became such mainstream that everybody wanted to have their enterprise applications also on mobile apps, right? And most of you have been in the industry know that that took a little bit of a time. Consumers apps were much more faster to come to the market, and users were using that, and then they were like, okay, I have to come here and use the desktop to still access my enterprise app. Why can't I have it a mobile app? The reason I'm giving you that example is what Microsoft is doing with this Copilot. Yes, there is a cost to it. Yes, there is an evolution that is happening, but I think the pattern I see is very similar. Uh, in your day-to-day work, from the moment you open Windows to browser to all your information worker tool, and if you're a developer, you have this Copilot as the AI assistant, right? And right now, it's not your Clippy from 20 years ago that is sounding a little bit more irritating and people sort of close it. I think many people are using it, and it will become part of your day-to-day working environment. And what will happen because of that is that while you will still continue to look at the ROI and the value of that, I think the promises, and that's the whole concept that we're trying to cover here, the promises or the hype that has been created around Copilot has been met in many, many areas, right? But you see the blank section of the slide, and I'm taking time to build that is because I think there is only so much that can happen like any other IT solution or a software solution, right? When it is a packaged solution built for a certain set of features that you see out here. What we are seeing, and you may or may not have seen this, that there are tools that are required to really realize the value, right? Talk about that hype that it can give me my product information. Great. But if you use the default Excel Copilot and ask it, give me my product information, it doesn't know. Unless and until, of course, you're still storing it in an Excel, probably it will be able to fetch out of it. But most companies will store it into their ERP or some kind of a PLM systems and other systems. How do you work with those? And this is again from an IT concept perspective, nothing new. But Copilot becomes your new UI to provide you a conversational AI access to a lot of that information. Out of the box, what M365 Copilot is going to provide to you is not necessarily going to be just able to go to your ERP and fetch that data, right? The connectors and everything else are there, and that's an extension or customizing what you want to do. Now, think of the end user, right? Think of a person in, let's say, a supply chain, right? For them, if the Copilot is a window on the right side in their Excel or whatever tool they're using, right, is the way for them to interact. IT implements the solution to also fetch the information from your ERP. They don't really need to care about that. They will get the value out of it because right now they're getting information about their documents, about their people, about their emails, and about their meetings. Now you extend it to link to your ERP. I think the value is certainly realized. And that's where we strongly are recommending and seeing that the whole Copilot universe, right? The starting point is the out of the box licensed product. And then you look at customizing and extending. Now, there is another level. Many customers, I think, can achieve a lot of value from the middle layer itself, where they are able to extend. And this is where I'm sure Dhanashri will talk about from her experience what various use cases are happening in the market. But what we see is as it becomes more mainstream, the whole new UI of conversational AI, and we are, of course, recommending customers to adopt that, right? You need to look at building as a part of your enterprise solutions, your products, right? And it's already happening. In fact, we work with products companies who have embarked on this few months ago on making sure that there is an AI assistant tied to their product because there is a value in that. Now, the approach to build that is you are not going to bolt on Microsoft 365 Copilot onto your product, right? That itself is probably sort of a confusion around the technology. That's not how it happens. So everything is called Copilot. I wish there were better or different names to it, but what you do is build those same experiences of conversational AI against your data. And we'll show you some of those concepts where you will be able to achieve that value that you've been looking at it by building these custom solutions, right, which absolutely are representing the same Copilot experience that you're getting out of the box in your Microsoft 365 or other solutions, right? On that, I think one of the important things that I thought it'll be good from Microsoft perspective for Dhanashri for you to maybe talk about is when we talk about the architecture of 365 Copilot, it's more behind the scene. It gets your data, and there is enough that has been published out there, I'm sure, on the web that it works against your Microsoft Graph information and fetches the data and creates and uses LLMs behind the scene and all that stuff. But when customers have to really look at building their own Copilot, which is not a licensed product, which is an effort that you need to spend, right? And it's a development effort. The ROI is, over time. But how do they go about that? Maybe if you want to sort of cover, why are customers choosing to go there? That will be a good point for everyone in the audience.
Yeah, so let's start with the simple scenario where, let's say you want to publish your Copilot external to your user, not within, let's say, your internal enterprises. That is where Microsoft 365 Copilot can help for the internal use cases. But if you want to do it for the external use cases, you would probably not want to have license for every other customer. So that is where you can actually start building some of your own custom Copilot, where you are the owner of your UI. It is baked in with your branding in your own website or any other front-end application that you may have. Other scenario to think about is also there are different tasks that are suited for small language model versus large language model. You may not need, that very powerful engine for every other task. So you want to kind of choose between these different LLM models out there. And you all might have seen there are so many from, let's say, Mistral, from Meta, there is Llama. OpenAI obviously have very popular ones out there, and they recently released O1 preview and O1 mini, which is going to also help you further into those complex cognitive tasks as well. So if you have those type of complex scenario where like combining different models for different subtasks can be helpful, that is also another scenario where you might want to think about building your own custom Copilot. Another very interesting thing that I have seen across my customer is everyone have their proprietary data that they do not want. I mean, that is their proprietary data. They do not want it to, like go to the public directly. They want to get insights from that, and they want to surface those insights to their customer, but not really the data. So how I can ground my Copilot responses on that proprietary data? Again, the answer is custom Copilot, where you can actually use some of the RAG pattern, retrieval augmented generation pattern, to get that insights, real-time insight from your data that is again your proprietary. You can have the role-based access control and all other kind of security measures on top of that, and you might have some of the compliance reason where you need to own the entire tech stack that go behind the Copilot. That can be another scenario where you want to think about that custom Copilot. And by the way, we have all on the right hand side, you can actually see like how we are giving you all the orchestration engine, all the plugins, the actions, the trigger, everything is available for you to build that Copilot from ground up. Hope that helps, Vinay.
Absolutely. No, I think I am sure it helps everyone. And I think the reason we wanted to cover this is I think this concept probably provides you a little bit of a better picture of what we covered here in terms of the maturity model, right? So when you talk about Copilot, right, you may be at the first stage itself, and that is absolutely fine, right? And we could answer questions, we could talk about the value that you can drive, the ROI, and all other aspects of the questions that we have got. We'll love to spend the rest of the time talking about those. But I think if you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, look at your journey and the roadmap, if Copilot is the platform approach, right, the new UI that I say, right, that you have finally bought into, which I think everybody will turn around at some point in time, right, you have to be very clear is that there are different stages for its adoption. There are different ROI for that, right? And the reason I brought up this slide back is uh, the first one is a cost from a per user licensing per month, right? And the second one has a different licensing cost, and we are not the licensing experts, so we won't, like to comment on those, but there is enough published out there. But what you're talking about is the effort required to use and implement this solution, this kind of a solution to build, but the impact and the value that you drive out here goes in this particular, sort of a, scale, right? And the questions are still common. And we will love to, come to the question that we got from, the whole promises that were there, and people sort of asked about it. And Joe, I know if somebody has asked any questions on the live session also, please, but I know there have been some questions that were published and you have included out here, which we can certainly talk about those and cover that in the next, sort of set of minutes that we have on this session.
Yes. So to answer your first question, Vineet, nobody has raised a question live, but you can. We have 35 more minutes scheduled, so please ask any questions. We'll get to them. We have preloaded, I think, 5 or 6 questions here that we're going to go through that we got from attendees prior to today. So the first one, I guess, stealing from the title, which Copilot use cases have lived up to the hype? Which ones have yielded the maximum impact? Dantri, we'll start with you maybe.
Yeah, so again, we have seen kind of common pattern when we work with our customer. And some of the patterns that we have seen is whenever you want to think about the impact, think about where you can actually want to actually get more productivity for your team, how you can improve your customer experiences, and what that in turns mean for your business, improving the customer experiences, having the differentiated value. And is there any new revenue stream that can be generated using this Copilot? So these are like kind of main pillars to think about. I would also like to kind of expand on this a little bit with some of the kind of common use cases that we are seeing across the industry. So I'll start with the first one, which is I have seen my customers using in mainly like the knowledge mining scenario, where again, they have a lot of data, let it be structured data, unstructured data that is stored in, let's say, blob storage, let it be on your databases or data warehouse. How can I actually drive insights from that data much more quicker? And not every user will have, let's say, data analytics skill set or data science or coding skill set. So how can I ask that question in more of a natural language? And Copilot is able to give me the answer looking at all these different knowledge repository and surface that information much more quicker. Not just the surface the information, but also kind of reason on top of that. You can ask multiple follow-up questions to get the right result that you want. I want to actually give you one example where we have used this Copilot concept is in more of a healthcare scenario where my customer had a lot of data in medical notes, the immunization, the radiology reports, and so on. The use case there was how can I improve the prior authorization rate much more quicker? So prior to this Copilot adoption, they used to spend almost anywhere from 15 days to a month to go through all these different medical record to get the value out of it, and then decide whether this person or this patient is actually eligible for certain type of surgeries or certain type of drugs and medications, which are like super expensive. So we use this knowledge mining Copilot that is now reducing the time in just like 2 to 3 days. They were able to go through all these different documents answer the multiple series of the question based on the knowledge retrieved with help of this Copilot, and give that decision much more quicker. So now that patient need not to wait for, let's say a patient that have cancer, they do not need to wait for an entire month to get their prior authorization approved. Now they can actually get it done in just like a few days, and that's the value, that's the differentiator impact that you can see that is driving with help of this use case.
And then, if I may add to it, I think that is certainly what we have also seen in our experience as the big use case because people have a lot of data, and of course, in the last I would say a few years, a lot of enterprise search solutions have been built, right? And enterprise search solutions do only so much, and they are keyword based, and they still are providing, as you were saying earlier, they provide you a link to go and do something. The knowledge mining is something, as you will see, we have put in a link to a solution which uses the Copilot concept in this knowledge mining. We have a solution called Knowledge Fusion. So it's a solution accelerator. Again, don't consider it as a product. It's the same concept that she's talking about, right? And the idea is to look at this pattern of connecting to your data sources. The example that Dhanshi was giving was for a medical, right? We worked with a high-tech manufacturing company where they were able to connect it to all of their, product information and help the R&D department do a lot more research, faster research using the same. But it was more of, again, a conversational AI, not an enterprise search. And the knowledge fusion is one of those examples built using the same pattern of this use case. And it certainly is, I would say, one of the top of the list. But don't think of it as a chatbot. Again, I continue to say that, right? I think, chatbots are more about Q&A, right? You're talking about through a limited set of data and a limited set of responses. And I'd love to sort of provide more context to that. But what we're talking about here, what Dhanshi talked about, what Knowledge Fusion is all about, is taking it experience of a conversational AI, where you can actually continue to dig deeper into the information, right? Not find more links, but look at information that can help you make certain decisions.
Awesome. And I can really say that these these solution accelerators were really helpful because instead of trying to kind of stitch the entire pipeline together, you have something like a boilerplate template out of the box. All you need to do is like connect to your data set and again refine some of the business processes that are very kind of specific to you, and there you go, you have the Copilot built in just matter of time. And nowadays it's like getting it faster to the market is much more important. So yeah, I mean these solution accelerator were really helpful. Another use case that I want to talk about is this call center. I did touch base about it a little bit earlier. I want to actually start with another customer case study of mine where the call center that they had used to get almost 120,000 calls per day. And these are all related to like healthcare benefits and the claims and the member service request, and sometimes even some members are not happy with the service. So how we can actually help solve some of their problem. Their agent used to spend a lot of time after the call to do the summary what happened in the call. And even during the call, they used to take some time to find the information how to solve that particular case quicker. So that is where, again, we built this call center Copilot that is helping them save almost 5 minutes after every call. And that in turns translate into almost 1,500 hours saved in just first 20 days that when we started the prototyping, and that itself for the year you can extrapolate from that data. But that is how they have used this call center Copilot first to have the better customer experience, to reduce the burden on their call center agent, and also you can see like because the hours that they're spending now that get saved, so that they then get translated into some of the operating cost as well. So that's the another use case, call center Copilot use case type of pattern that I have seen across the industry. I want to just touch. I want to actually mention the another pattern, which is content generation. But before that, I would like to give you some of the customer examples. So here are just like a few examples that I have given. So H&R Block have used Azure AI services to streamline their process of filing the tax return. So they have like multiple different type of data, different forms and so on, and they have used this AI to again help extract that information much more quicker and then help with the tax return. Apollo also simplifies the travel with help of this Copilot service that is now helping them reduce the burden on their agent. And they have this interesting thing where like the customer can interact with the Copilot, but whenever it thinks that, oh, this is where I need to have the human intervention, so it get triggered, and then the actual human can come and interject, and then that is also helping like the collaboration between human and AI technology is helping their customer have the better experiences. And the last one is about ASOS, who are actually building their enhanced personalization and engagement service that has better awareness about all the trends that are happening in the real time. And like the trends are changing super fast, so they were able to adopt to what is changing and catering to their customer need accordingly. And that lead me to the last pattern that I have seen, which is around the
And
content
before,
generation.
Dhanshi,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, then before you go there, we have put in a link to a very similar use case around the contact center improvement using Copilot, using conversational AI solution. Right, that's a case study that, as then she was mentioning in her experience, in our experience also, millions of dollars of saving by automating and speeding up tasks. We are seeing some other questions, related questions being asked. We will certainly address those. But what you will see is that these use cases are certainly achieving automation, time savings, and of course, providing a lot more easier way for users to interact with the applications, right? And yes, let's talk about the last use case, and then we have other question that we'll be happy to talk about.
Yeah, so this is about again the content generation that is helping all the multiple different type of content, let it be the marketing campaign or yeah, you all might have seen those AI generated ads. So like creating the new content as well as sometimes some organization have a lot of document data, sometimes handwritten type of forms as well. So how AI can help retrieve that data much more quicker. That is another set of use cases that I have seen. But with that, I know we have a lot of questions on the chat, and we have a few other questions collected. So over to you, back to you, Joe, for the next question.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, we received a few questions from a few clients and people before the discussion today. So I want to get to those. The next one is, how do you qualify the financial investment or prove the ROI of each AI or generative AI tool? You could see the example here. These costs add up pretty quickly. So wanted to get your thoughts on this from a ROI perspective.
And I think that is a matter of fact, a very true statement right now. I think the way the licensing, if you remember the hierarchy that I was showing you, or the life cycle that I was showing you, licensing has been created, right? It is an upfront cost, right? Almost an upfront cost, because the licensing model, as far as I'm aware, is like a yearly commitment for an X number of users, and of course those costs add up. And the ROI is of course not going to be in the first week, not even in the first 2-3 weeks or 2-3 months. What we are seeing is, as customers have adopted the Copilot and invested this amount, There have been more research and studies that have been done on the productivity gains, on the time savings that have happened. Many of them have been published. I wouldn't claim that I have, those, numbers directly, but those numbers do show that employees that are using that, are starting to save time. Now, there has been enough sort of debate about is, okay, if an employee is saving time by using Copilot, for example, is that time to have more coffee or can they do something else? Right? That is always going to be a debate. So the ROI, I think, in my experience, and Dhanashree, unless you have anything to add, is I think is a little bit of a long-term game to evaluate. Yes, there is an upfront investment. All the first set of indications is that it is going to make access to information faster, people to be able to save time in doing the task that they are normally doing, and of course, not only that, save time, but also be a little bit more efficient and accurate in what they're finding. Right? The sort of the given factor, the given fact is that okay, I'm working on something and I create first draft, and then I need to find some other information. I miss finding some information. I think what Copilot kind of a scenario is able to do is slow down or reduce that entire sort of a cycle for you to be able to have more information created more accurately in a shorter span of time. That's at least what we are seeing in our own experience. Also, we use Copilot internally. I use it almost on a daily basis. At the high level, as I said, is you will be able to calculate ROI over time. Right now, most of the customers, I would say majority of the customers, are seeing productivity gains that have been published. There are companies that have, based on the roles, right, not seen productivity gains because their task may actually not be helped by Copilot. Is not a silver bullet to solve everything, right? If you have a very pointed task to do and a one or two step only, I don't think Copilot is the right solution for that in that particular case. You are not going to be able to save time or gain any kind of a value out of it. That's where you will not get ROI. So what we recommend to the customers is it's not that you buy a Copilot just starting with Microsoft 365 Copilot for everyone in the organization. May not make sense. You have to do, there is a whole adoption guidance that has been evolving. You have to look at the use cases, you have to look at the user profile, personas, what are their tasks, right? And appropriately use and give those licenses, and then do a pilot, do an iterative study around those. And as I said, some of them may say, this is not helping me. Why it is not helping you is because you are probably working with data which is outside the purview of Microsoft Graph, right? And that's where you will have to invest into building some customizations to your Copilot. Only then you will be able to see an ROI. So there is a upfront investment of a licensing cost if you go with Microsoft 365 Copilot and some add-on for customization to be able to realize the value in the long run. And there are examples that we can certainly point you from the IDC research, from our own experience. The exact objective evaluation of is it 20 minutes that is saved, is it 1 hour that is saved, and what is the ROI of that 1 hour? People have calculated it based upon, let's say, the average salary in that organization, right? And how much cost saving you could do. Could people do more in the same day, in the same time, or not spend so much hours around that? So that's the high level. I don't know, Dhanashree, if you have anything to add, but that's our experience.
Yeah, you covered pretty much it. Basically, start with understanding where it will create the value in those 4 buckets that we mentioned before.
Great.
I think the next question that I see, and if I can, in the interest of time, jump to that, I think it's a very, very important topic. I have written about this, and we'll point you to the blog where, as you are planning
So, Vinny, sorry to interrupt you. Just in case someone doesn't have their video on and they're just listening, let me just ask the question. The question you're about to answer, I believe, is what skills and resources are required in an enterprise to bring these Copilot use cases to life?
Absolutely, yeah. So as I said, we'll share with you some of the research that we have done as we build customizations or even custom Copilot, you do need your traditional skills of developers, but I think in this particular case, you also need data engineers and data scientists who understand your data against which you are working, right? There are concepts around different kinds of models and different capabilities of models. So you need Gen AI consultants and architects who will understand those aspects. And last but not the least is never forget it is a new UI, right? It's almost like 15 years back, as I continue to say, you're building a mobile app equivalent kind of a new UI, new experience. Based upon the persona, you need to have UI, UX, people involved. What will appeal? What will still be an easier conversational AI? And it's not always a chatbot experience. It could be even voice-based asking questions, right? So in the solution. So many of those skills are there. We have published it in our guidance around how to plan for Gen AI solutions for success, and we'll be happy to share some of those. I think we can cover one more question on security, and then I do see some live questions that we can certainly address. And we have, of course, been talking about some various lessons learned as a part of that.
Yeah, we have 14 minutes, so I think we should have time to get to one or two chat questions. Dantri, I want to give you the floor to answer this question because I know security is something that you're passionate about. How can you ensure security for your Copilot projects and the data powering them?
Yeah, so security, as well as the reliability, safety, I consider all these should be the first thing that you should think about. It should not be the afterthought for sure. And for building your own custom Copilot, we do provide multiple different toolkit. For an example, if you're thinking about the security lenses of, let's say, the role-based access control, or how you can keep all your data as well as the communication that is happening with your custom Copilot within your networking boundaries. So we do have services like, all these different services come backed with the encryption at rest, at transit. It has the private endpoint, so all your networking remain under the virtual networking boundaries that you handle. But another aspect of thinking about the security is also how you can make sure any user is asking any question, will that actually prompt model to generate some of the violence, hateful, self-harm type of content, and how we can actually stop that, mitigate that at the time when the data goes as an input to the model, as well as if a model is generating something like that, we should not be surfacing that back to our Copilot UI. So how we can stop that? The answer for that is this content filter service that we have, where you can actually have different type of filter. Here you can see violence, hate, sexual, self-harm, prompt shill for the jailbreak attack, and as well as for the indirect attack, how this service can help you do that. So here you can see you can actually set some of the thresholds as you want based on your requirement for your input as well as your output data. And this is the service where it will hit this service first. It can either allow your question or even the model output give response back, or it can block before it happens. So it has that filtering at input as well as output. So this is the second way of thinking about the security and safety of the model. I would also suggest you should be always checking the evaluation before you actually publish this Copilot, and we do have the evaluation workflows that are available out there where you can see for multiple different variations is my different matrices that are available for LLMs, for example, similarity or coherence, relevance, ground index, and so on. How they are they improving or are they decreasing on different run? And I see this is my best possible run, so I can go ahead, I can deploy this in the production. So this is also the third lens to think about the security and safety of the model. And I saw almost relevant question, Joe, if I can just take that one, because this is again Subhashini asked this,
Sure.
how we should be thinking about the compliance and kind of the safety in the regulatory industries, such as like life sciences and finance. So the answer for that is again, like, think about all these different threefold approach. But when you think about the regulatory industry, that's where the compliance also come in picture. So all these different toolkits and services that we are offering, are they, let's say, compliant with HIPAA, SOC 1 or 2, or like multiple different compliances. So, and just to give you answer for that, the Azure OpenAI service that we have, that is already compliant, and I'll send you the link to also check for other compliance which are more relevant for your industry. But it is compliant against HIPAA, high trust, SOC type of regulatory compliances. So the tech stack that we are providing, like, you need to check, like, is that compliant by itself? And the second thing is, like, there is also some responsibility on the customer side. Using this technology, when you build a solution, you also need to make sure, like, you are adhering to all these different compliances. And we give you the toolkit, but it is also your responsibility to implement them. So the combination of those two is going to help you build those custom Copilot for those highly regulated industries.
I think that the last point is a very important point, even from my perspective, as we look at leveraging Copilot and the entire Copilot framework and the stack. I think the responsibility of looking at some of the non-functional requirements around security, performance, scalability does not go away entirely, right? It's like using any other platform to build your solution, right? Ultimately, Copilot is not a magic bullet where you are building something. You have to, again, look at it, as I continue to say, is more on the capabilities of a new user experience, right? But seamlessly being able to work against different kinds of data. I know there are a couple of questions around those. I'll just bring up one last slide, and of course, we can go through some of the questions. If you, Joe, you want to bring it up. These are some of the use cases when we see across industries, what we are seeing, right, of different kinds of repetitive tasks. We have seen that in insurance industry, in financial industry, many of the scenarios around even the compliant scenarios, right, but able to summarize domain-specific documents. So legal industry, where document is the the whole way of living through that. So being able to create new documents, but also be able to edit and summarize and complete certain documents by filling in domain-specific information. So many of these use cases is where custom Copilot goes in, or even a customized Microsoft 365 Copilot can achieve, so that you can achieve that reality, right? And it's no longer a hype from my perspective. But any other questions that you see that we can help answer?
Yeah, so with the 7 or 8 minutes we have left, there's a couple I want to get to that have been raised in the chat. One is from Shoaib. How is the feedback loop structured for Copilot to improve over time? Are we retraining models based on user interactions? And how frequently should that happen?
I will give you a high level point of view, and if you have anything to add, please. Again, I think one of the clarities that we like to do is Copilot is not a model, right? Copilot is leveraging the LLMs that have already been talked about, right? Even Microsoft 365 Copilot is leveraging the LLMs that have been deployed and trained against your, or connected to your Microsoft Graph in your tenant itself. The improving over time is not a Copilot's responsibility itself, right? It's more around how the LLMs are structured and whatever fine tuning, if required, is required, right? As one of the things that I've been saying for the last almost 2 years now, I think the concept of retraining the models has actually, is not even applicable in the LLM, in the generative AI space, right? There could be fine tuning, which is a different level of effort that is required, right? But you're not retraining any of the models because these are generative models by design itself. And they are, of course, improving based upon, I think one of the things that then she showed, you could have evaluation criteria where you could put a feedback loop, but that is still refinement. I would caution against using terms like retraining the models because you don't really have access to the underlying model as such. I don't know if you have anything to add then, Shri.
Yeah, on top of what you mentioned, Vineet, the way to think about, how I can get better result from the Copilot is, first, on the UI, can you actually give any type of feedback mechanism for user? Let's say simple one I have seen is like either thumbs up or thumbs down. Like, do you like this? So this is the output from the Copilot. Is it actually answering your question or not? So you can actually collect those type of telemetry from your Copilot, and over the time you can see, oh, okay, where all it is actually have the shortcoming, and then you can actually trace that back. Why is it happening? Can I actually improve it with the better prompts, a better, let's say, external function calling, and then kind of the entire orchestration layer that I mentioned on top of the LLM. So as Vinit said, you are not actually fine tuning your model, but you are kind of restructuring or rephrasing your prompt so that the model can actually give you the better outcome. And some of the evaluation matrices that I have showed you before, you can actually for your, let's say, Copilot endpoint, you can actually track all these different matrices. Is it grounded on my data, or is it hallucinating? So you can also collect those type of telemetry, and as you go, like, you can actually create the alerts on that UI that I showed you before for the evaluation UI. Once you have those alerts, you can actually have the LLM ops. So it's kind of the DevOps for LLM or building the Copilot to then pick up those type of signal and then have the kind of human in a loop to kind of again optimize the prompt, optimize the
Yeah,
processes to get the better outcome.
I think that's a good point. In short, if I were to just summarize it, improving the Copilot's performance by providing some UI or any other kind of a feedback loop does not always mean training or retraining or even looking at the model. There are other layers of prompts and functions and your data itself and your data quality itself, right? The data availability itself that could improve, the Copilot over time. I think models is probably, if not the last, at least the least important in my opinion.
Interesting. So I think we have time for one more question. If I can get you both to chime in on this question from Milind in a minute or less. Will chatbots and copilots develop simultaneously, or copilots will make chatbots obsolete? Many companies are currently building chatbots for their service desk, for an example. What are
Yeah,
your
and
thoughts?
and I think it's a very real life question. I would say it's a philosophical question, right? It's also terminologies, right? Why wouldn't those chatbots that are being created for service desks called copilots, right? I think one thing about Copilot that I like to sort of emphasize is the UI, right? The chatbot is almost an independent thing, right? If you go to a website and somebody says chat, it is not in the context essentially and necessarily actually of where you are. I think the Copilot is the concept itself is it's helping you with what you're doing. So what the chatbots for service desk have been developed for years, I would say, right? Using AI, using ML, using standard Q&A are answering predefined questions, and then it points to somebody else. The Copilot's capability is much bigger than that, and that's a new way of thinking. Is that if the consumer is on, let's say, the checkout page, right, and there a Copilot can actually help with the context of what is that they are trying to do out here, and they want some information around that. That's where the Copilot concepts come into the picture. Service desk is your customer service that you go even physically to a, let's say, in a retail store. Copilot is, it probably there is hardly an equivalent. It's more like you go to a high-end store and there is a dedicated shopper assistant that is working with you, and he or she is the one choosing the items for you, right? Rather than a customer. So there's a different experience for the end user that you have to think about. Are you helping choose the product, or are you providing support on the product, or whatever is the topic in question out here?
Gantry,
And
I'll give
I
you the
know we
last
have short
word.
of time, but I do see a couple of interesting questions. We'll certainly post answers to those. But if I were to just look at these slides again, right, and or just the slide that I'm showing you, automation of not only data analytics, but a lot of tasks is there. I think something that you will see a lot, and I want to emphasize on that. Um, Copilots are right now more interactive, right? That's why it's called conversational AI. The automation, the RPA, right, which is not new, probably 10 years now, right, has been there, is leveraging, the generative AI is evolving the RPA world into what is called agents, right? You're going to hear a lot more about agents, and I'll be happy to sort of, present more about agents. That's where automation is going to be taken to the next level, which is where even interactivity is going to get reduced. And these are going to be tasks that are predefined to automate a lot of your activities that will be achieved by generative AI agents. And I'm sure you're hearing a lot about that. That's where I think the next evolution of this whole Copilot experience is going to happen. And no, it doesn't exist against the multi-tenancy. I see a question around that on Office 365. A particular Copilot in your tenant works against only your graph. It won't work against the multi-tenancy. At least that's not the security boundary that has been, to my knowledge, that has been extended right now. We'll just end with this thing. I think some of the questions may still have been unanswered. We'll certainly try to post them as we post the response. I think one of the things that we see is the topic that we have covered about is, okay, how do you build those copilots, right? There are two large sort of topics or technologies available today, right? And the more I speak to the customers, while they understand the concept, they're still looking at guidance around how do I build those Copilot? Do I use Copilot Studio? Do I use Azure AI Studio? And again, I won't answer that right now because that's planned to be the next tech topic. And love to see if there are specific questions. If somebody has already been experimenting with it, we will love to provide you more information on how to go through the decision matrix of which is the best tool to use, or maybe a combination of both. We'll be happy to cover that in the next slides. Next session.
Yeah, we're out of time, and I see people dropping off already. Dantri, I'll give you the last word, 30 seconds or less. Anything to add before we conclude?
Go use Copilot and would love to see what all you can achieve out of that.
We appreciate you joining us, and maybe we'll have you back if you'll come back for a future CTO Tech Talk Live.
Would love to. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for your time and asking the question. Thank you, Joe, for moderating it.
You're very welcome. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you again. We'll send out the recording in a day or two.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.